Hi, I'm Maeve. I work with kids on the spectrum and I'm gonna go back to school and do like rad tech. I
What?
guess that's like the basics.
Yeah, I guess the first question, of course, for this conversation would be, so I saw a TikTok, not too long ago where like a woman described like her biggest fear is like being seen with a man. And so like under the comments and this comment actually caught my attention. It was like a user had said that like her aesthetic, just being a girlfriend, it just doesn't align. And do you think, I guess, maybe some women are lying or saying this because, like, it could bring down their social status or image with being a man? And, like, could this be a method? I don't know, like, women are using this to be more private about their relationship online? Because I saw a comment where a woman described that, like, when a man is seen with a woman, it benefits him socially, but not the same for the girlfriend.
I think what's happening is that like women are finally prioritizing themselves the way men have like since forever. I mean, so many men in today's time have been like in some way affected by red pill content. It's like slowly and quietly seeped into like most content that we consume. And it's like down to small things like Siri and Alexa being defaulted to a female's voice to straight up like femicide. Dude, misogyny is like everywhere. And with red pill content, it's only gonna get worse. And so like violence against women is like on a rise. And so obviously more women are anxious. And I think anyone would be if you were like in a world designed to keep you like submissive and subservient to an inherently like abusive society. And like as for women not posting their boyfriends or like maybe it's not like an like aesthetic thing, I just feel like most women have realized or have kind of associated like relationships with like a loss of freedom. And so I guess pursuing something like that to them feels like a loss of individuality, like a loss of freedom, a loss of a voice. Just like, I don't know, with abusive relationships being so common, it's understandable to be so scared and like not really interested in relationships because it seems like the risk outweighs any possible reward. But I feel like it's something a lot of people have a trauma towards, like, so for them it's kind of difficult to view a relationship as something beneficial when they've had maybe previous experiences where it's just been so fucked that no matter what benefit that is possible, it just doesn't feel worth the risk.
And that also ties into like our next question as well. Like, when it comes to the topic like decentering men, because that's also seen a lot, especially like in like online spaces for women. Do you think maybe there's a difference between decentering men versus decentering romance?
Well, I feel like yes, because I mean, obviously not everyone's attracted to men, but and I feel like centering your life around men is also like a symptom of a patriarchy, symptom of misogyny that's like very imbued in our society. I feel like a lot of the times, I mean, you'll even see it in comment sections where like men have this delusion that everything women do is for them. So it's kind of hard when you're raised in a society where it's like, okay, I guess like everything I do is for men. It's hard to not center like most of your life aspects around men. And so when we look at decentering yourself from men versus love, I feel like it really just depends on a person and who they're attracted to. But I feel like when it comes to decentering yourself from men, it's like a kind of, what is it, conditioned thing that we tend to go through. But I feel like the difference is just that when it comes to love, obviously, like it excludes self love. I feel like decentering romance is also centering yourself in a way. I'm not sure if that like fully makes sense.
Why do you think, when it comes to healthy relationships that are shown online, that they're kind of, I don't know if downplayed is the word, or maybe Maybe not
You mean
accepted.
negatively?
Yeah, negatively, yeah. Just not seen as accepted a lot. Like I've seen comments, of course, before where like, um, what is it? Like a woman could post about like how she's in a healthy relationship, how expressing her love for her boyfriend, and there would be comments like like and not even also her boyfriend, maybe a woman with her husband, and there'd be comments saying like like, oh, we lost another baddie, like be careful with him, like I could never, or you should just leave him now because he's gonna do something in the near future, just kind of putting fear into these relationships. And so like could this be maybe a cause of, it's how to say this word, like misandry, or is it maybe, I don't know, it's normal to, of course, to be in a relationship and to be married. So why isn't online? Like, could this be, I don't know, maybe like a anti-men thing, or it could be something else?
I think similarly, we see men often doing the same thing with the woman as well. And I'm gonna talk about both because I think they're really interesting. Because I feel like relationships are like negatively seen online because over years of oppression, relationships start to signify like a loss of freedom, loss of individuality. Like I said earlier, like the end of a woman's life to some people. And so it's hard for some women to imagine a man who genuinely values her views and her as like seeing her as an equal, as an individual. And I don't know, I can't blame them. Like it's scary when women have been like literally conditioned to be obedient, quiet, and submissive for like decades. And like the cycles don't stop, like especially with trad culture and modesty culture on the rise. Like I swear, like women have begun like subconsciously associating relationships like with oppression and a lack of freedom. And on the latter side, men tend to criticize the woman or like, oh bro, like you better leave her, whatever. And I feel like the difference in how men receive women in relationships versus how women receive men or women in relationships is that women view it negatively out of fear, men view it negatively out of lack of control. Because with trad culture and modesty culture, like again, we see men always having something to say about how a woman dresses. If she's too covered, oh, she's a square. She don't know how to have fun. She deserves to be violated. But then if she's the opposite, if she shows her skin, same thing. Oh, she's a hoe, like she deserves to be violated. So it's like hard for women to exist neutrally because men will always have some sort of opinion on us because they don't actually have control over us. And so when we see like these relationships and how they're being received online, I think that also like heavily ties into like widespread porn consumption and just media consumption. Like we without a doubt probably scroll on our phones for hours on end. And of course, our social media like they create algorithms for us. So obviously, if you see something provoking, you interact with it more. For some of these men, it's woman in revealing clothing. So then they're fed it more. And so they're able to hate on it more. And so slowly their algorithm is just something that provokes them and something that garners their like interaction. And a lot of the times it's not really positive interactions. Same thing like with women who are like very afraid of like relationships, we're probably going to see a lot more of like women's stories about like horror relationship stories, like or they're going to see stuff about like abusive relationships or whatever you interact with the most, whether it's negatively, positively in any way, the algorithm picks it up. So it's so easy for people to fall into this fear, fall into this like need for control because that's all they consume and that's all they're fed.
I love your responses. Yes, exactly. And like when you talk about also fear as well, like kind of going back to, I think you mentioned it before, like being attracted to men. Do you think maybe nowadays some women are embarrassed to admit that they have some type of attraction to men? Because it's like I saw also a TikTok where a woman has said like being attracted to men is a curse, And the woman on the comments, she was like, me lay next to my fiance who I'm marrying in a week. And like under that comment, it was like a crying meme. And like, I know she probably said it as a joke, but I'm like, but isn't this type of attraction normal, I saw another TikTok where like a woman has said like having a boyfriend makes you less cool, but she explained it in a way like unless your boyfriend is make you unlock your like greatest potential. So it's like, is this type of attraction? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like this is such an online thing. Like you said, it's like whatever our algorithm is feeding us. Because like if you said this in person to somebody, like to one of your friends, like oh,
It'd
like
be crickets, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
They have to sit there for a second.
yeah.
Because yeah, I feel like we tend to see a lot of chronically online takes because a lot of these people, A, are like reacting based off of previous traumas. And of course, with the algorithm feeding them the stuff that triggers these traumas, which also triggers interactions, they're just fed that shit, which probably increases their fear more, which probably and I feel like this idea that having a boyfriend or like a husband or a partner is like inherently wrong is heavily based on like a trauma response, or it could be just a genuine like distaste for men, which in that case might be a sexuality thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people tend to like overexpress a distaste for men. Like, I can confidently say, like, I don't 100% trust men, like, in general, but it's not to the point where I'm like completely backed off of them. I'm like, I have a boyfriend, so of course not. But I think it all just like kind of trails back to that trauma response that people have, or just like a genuine anxiety or fear. And I feel like that is just based off of, I mean, we have phones in our hands. We see a lot of things all the time. Femicide is climbing. And I feel like most women have seen a case or two that has genuinely stuck with them and has kind of like traumatized them in some way. And so to, I guess, continue on with like social interactions or relationships or just life in general with these fears in mind is kind of like a normal reaction to something traumatic.
And I also wanted to like add on to that as well. Like I remember in like 2020, so definitely during quarantine, where of course like we're stuck inside and we're gonna be on our phones more and more, and also having less like social interaction as well. I remember this was like there was this whole like I hate all men trend going on. I don't know if you know, but like that was the thing that was happening. And I don't know if that trend kind of shifted into how you mentioned before like, red pill content for men. Well, there's this thing called pink pill content for women. So I don't know if you know about pink pill.
I actually don't, but it does sound a lot like just misandry. And I feel like what a lot of people don't understand about misandry is that misandry would not exist without misogyny. They are the same coin, different sides. Misandry is a response to misogyny. Like, if you continuously like brutalize someone over and over and over, they're not going to feel neutral about you. They're going to hate you. And that's what's happening. And a lot of this hatred is actually just based out of fear. I mean, when we see femicide cases, they're not fast, quick, and easy. No, they're brutal. They're dragged out for hours, suffering. Like, and it's just like another big conversation that happened not too long ago was man versus bear. Like, and many women chose bear because it's a predictable response. The bear's gonna tear you apart. You might live for like what, 15 minutes, your body might go into shock instantly and you might die. Men keep you alive to prolong your suffering because the average essay is not just a quick, bust and go. It's hours long because these men get off to the suffering and misery of women. It's like a control thing. And it's ridiculous. And I feel like we don't really think about that like hard enough. So when that whole entire conversation went off, men took it and ran. And of course, misogyny kind of spiked a little bit during that conversation. It was very odd to see the angered responses from a hypothetical situation where men were not chosen. And like chosen. And it's not like specifically like, hey, you specifically first and last time I would choose a bear over you. But men would take it like they were personally called out, and it was so interesting to see.
Yeah, I feel like that whole thing, not only like with the whole man versus bear, but also another, I guess, like, I don't know if this was also a trend, but then also the I hate my boyfriend trend that was going on. Like, I think this was happening last year. So, yeah, like, that trend, I'm not sure if that was like used in a way for women to express how terrible the boyfriends are, or it could be something else. But it's like somebody had like made a TikTok towards that, and it was like, it's so sad that like this trend is happening because, like, that's a person you claim to love with like real feelings and stuff. But maybe was this trend used in retaliation against the whole I hate my girlfriend trend? Because I've seen some comments where people are like, no, but the I hate my girlfriend trend happened first, and then it was the I hate my boyfriend thing.
I remember that vividly, and that whole entire trend was a retaliation against the I hate my girlfriend trend. And a lot of the times, what we've seen with the I hate my boyfriend trends is that it's usually single women joking, or they're even expressing frustrations about previous relationships and using that trend to kind of vent. But with the I hate my girlfriend trend, it was like genuine misogyny and actual hatred. And so that's why women took it and kind of twisted it to make it a joke, because if men are able to see that when we do it, it's wrong, why can't they, use that same logic and apply it to themselves?
Exactly. Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, because it was like I was thinking, are both trends wrong, or like, yeah, was this like a retaliation thing? But like that makes a lot of sense. And I think though also, oh yeah, one of your TikToks actually, how it was about healthy relationships. And
Mhm.
I remember I saw a phrase in one of the comments, and it was like, single women keep women single. And so I did some research on that phrase, kind of digging a little bit deep into it. And so I learned, I guess, that phrase is like when, what is it like when some women, like, especially I think married women, or like former married women, like they would, like, I guess, post content of like how bad their marriage is going, like things like that. And so when some women see that type of content, I'm sorry, they're like, yeah, this is not the life I want. Like, I don't think I want to be in a relationship or even a marriage as well. And so I think some men were also like responding to that and saying, like, like, oh, like, why can't I remember seeing a TikTok. It was like some man who was talking about, like, this is why, some women don't want to get married anymore, because you women are posting content out like this and stuff like that. And so I'm thinking, sorry, for our question, is this maybe supposed to represent women who are losing, beginning to lose interest in like wanting to be in a relationship because of this like type of frequent like content? And I remember seeing a comment where like someone had said like, I have yet to, meet a divorced woman who isn't, miserable in her life, and like who doesn't regret her divorce. Like, do you feel like maybe we just see more negative content lately when it comes to relationships, and not a lot of positive content?
I feel like when it comes to that content, it's like inherently silencing for men to be like, oh, single women keep women single. I feel like it's a misogynistic like phrase used to keep women from sharing their experiences. I mean, like, there used to be like medieval torture devices for women who gossip, but gossiping, sharing stories is so important, has kept women in like close knitted communities, kept each other safe. And when we see phrases like, oh, single woman like keep women single, it almost feels like someone trying to take control.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that like is translating well from thought to like words, but I feel like that phrase could do a little bit more impact if we redid it as misery loves company.
Yeah, there
Because
we
that
go.
is something very true.
Yeah.
And it's not something so, I guess, misogynistically toned.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that kind of dynamic where people are jealous or people are overly anxious, maybe they're OCD and they're trying to like give you too much input about how you should run your life. I feel like that isn't always applicable to just women. It's applicable to many different groups of people. And we see it all the time. I mean, these type of people are not rare to run into and it sucks.
Yeah, I feel like using that phrase instead, misery loves company, makes more sense. And I was also thinking of this as well, where it's like, then also going into like, I think friendships and then also relationships too. So I'm currently single, but the only reason why I'm choosing to stay single is because, like, I'm a very like career driven person, so it's like I would hate for someone, like if I was in a relationship, I would hate to prioritize my work than my partner and like feel like my partner's not getting enough attention from me. So it's like I would want to avoid that, and like if someone does come with me like with interest, that I won't reject. Like it's just I would have to try to learn how to balance all of it, if that makes sense. Like okay, how to
Yeah.
prioritize this person, but also not only myself but then also my work too. um, but also like going to our next question, there's also this phrase I saw on TikTok where somebody was like, be your own boyfriend. And when you hear that phrase, what do you think? What does that mean to you?
I feel like it means to love yourself the way that you love other people, especially boyfriends, because we see a lot of girls that when they get a boyfriend, it is pretty much like, depending on their age, the biggest part of their life. And I feel like a lot of the times they forget to prioritize themselves as well. Like, yes, like your boyfriend should be getting you flowers, but girl, go like on a little walk. Go pick yourself some flowers, smell some flowers, aromatherapy, girl. Like, it doesn't always have to be, oh, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that. Like, it can also be me and then my boyfriend and then me and then my boyfriend. Like, I feel like we're not finding a balance between our romantic lives and our individual lives, and we're being overly codependent and overly, I guess, centered around our boyfriends. And I feel like in the long run, regardless of gender, honestly, regardless of what kind of relationship, regardless of like the sex of both partners, not prioritizing yourself is unhealthy, not just for you, but for quite literally everyone close to you as well. I can't imagine trying to care for someone who doesn't care for themselves the same way that they care for other people. It's very stressful. Very.
And I also wanted to get into like, of course, like um, going back on the whole like pink pill thing. um I saw this also TikTok where this guy, he was on a podcast and he was talking about like I think the whole provider role when it comes to men in relationships. And so he was saying that like he's currently in a relationship, but he was saying that he doesn't see himself being a provider, meaning like not paying for everything like financially, or I guess just other things. And so some people, didn't like what he was saying. And do you know the whole like, I don't know, sprinkle sprinkle thing? Like,
Yes.
yeah. So like I saw a TikTok the other day too, and like this guy was like, he was saying that like this whole like sprinkle sprinkle thing is like ruining relationships nowadays, because it's like, are some people in relationships focusing more on like financial gain instead of like emotional gain, or is it just like like is everybody seeking a provider nowadays? Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like I understand the economy is like shitty right now, and like I know everybody wants the feeling, of course, to be taken care of, not having to worry about this next bill, or to get food, in your fridge, or like to go, for someone to pay for your nails and stuff like that, maintenance. But it's just like, and I think that also I think ties into the whole like also being independent in a relationship. Like like personally for me, in my opinion, like if I went on a date, I wouldn't want the guy to feel obligated to pay for the food. I don't know, that's just me. It was just like, like if he does pay for the first time, that's fine. But for the second time, I would want to also pay for the bill. Like, you shouldn't have to feel obligated to pay just because you're the man. Like, do it out of, I guess, kindness, like if you want to actually pay for it or split the bill.
I feel like when it comes to that, it just kind of comes down to the trad culture being on a freaking uprise. And I think what's happening is that women are just kind of fed up with men wanting this trad wife like lifestyle, but they're not comprehending that in order to have a trad lifestyle, you have to be a trad husband, which means that you have to be a provider. So when they're asking women to take care of the kids, clean the house, cook the food, women are like, okay, but what about you? And that's something I feel like we didn't really have the position to ask before because we like didn't have the rights to. And so we're asking for that fair share. Like I feel like I see so many women who have kind of, I guess, leaned into the idea of that tried lifestyle, but they make an emphasis on being able to benefit from it as well. Because if you're asking someone to do this like physical labor for absolutely nothing in return, you're asking for a maid. You're asking for a maid, which by the way gets paid. So you might as well. Like babysitters, they get paid. Like, and it's just, I guess, a transactional relationship when it comes to traditional relationships. It's very much transactional. It's physical labor that is the transaction. You, the husband, go to work, make money. You provide money for the wife. The wife, she's taking care of the house and she's taking care of the kids. That is a transaction of physical labor. And I feel like every relationship is transactional. It's just not always materialistic or monetary. Like, for example, like with friends, I give you a shoulder to cry on, I give you advice and comfort. You give me like companionship and you give me like advice and, etc. And I feel like when we hear like, oh, relationships are transactional, we view it so negatively quickly because we're thinking about monetary and materialistic transactions, which obviously are the ones that we see the most of because those ideas I feel like are generally considered absurd and therefore garner more interaction and they blow up. So seeing those things is not that rare.
And like this also goes into like our next question where people are also feeling like nowadays like relationships are becoming like very performative where I guess some people are kind of only playing up on like appearances and aesthetics when it comes to relationships. And I remember somebody had explained most of that in a TikTok and some people were commenting like like, oh, it's always these damn phones. So I am curious, like, is it these phones? Like, is it really social media and how like relationships are being portrayed? Like, are relationships not being based off, love anymore? Like, is it only based on what the person can offer them? Like you said, like, things being transactional.
I think that relationships aren't always performative. I think it's really dependent on the individual. I mean, attention seeking behaviors are something like everyone has engaged in at some point of time, especially as children. But, like, as we know, not everyone grows up. So, those attention seeking children become attention seeking adults who can date and marry. And let's say you're talking about couple influencers. Chances are it's two attention seeking adults. And so what we're seeing is that we consume influencers and their content and we start to believe that what we're consuming is like law, and that comparison is starting to kind of affect relationships. So I believe like it is that damn phone. Our parents were right. It is the fucking phones. Like these things rot your brain out. I mean it, and also with the algorithms doesn't help. Like you could be consuming something completely unhealthy and it doesn't matter because as long as you interact with it, it's all you see. And so it's like literally rotting you. And I just feel like we start to believe that if we aren't performing, then we are, I guess, unworthy of a
Yeah.
relationship. We start to compare ourselves to, oh my God, like they're able to provide this and this and this. If I don't do that, I must be failing. So we like to flaunt the things that we are able to accomplish because we feel like if we're not performing, then we're not doing well. And it's a weird thing. And like a lot of the times these like couple influencers, they always start these weird like trends and fads where they're all based in like anxiety and insecurity. It's not actual psychology. Like all these theories, like, oh my God, new theory dropped. And it's like just tests for your partner. And I just feel like if you need to test your partner to know that it's true, maybe we don't need a partner. Maybe we need to take a second and maybe evaluate why we feel as insecure as we do, why we don't feel as safe as we do, and why we feel the need to test somebody constantly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's cool. You want to try out these little like trends here and there, but it gets to a point where I feel like people are anxiously consuming these trends and trying them out to test their partner's love. And I just feel like maybe a relationship isn't the most beneficial thing for you at that point. It would probably just be like inner work.
And is this also why people say like, like don't follow like what is it, those like things where it's like, oh, like couple goals, relationship goals, like is that something, of course, like say someone is new to the whole relationship thing, like this is probably their first relationship, is that something they really should avoid, like, like and I've been seeing that before online where it's just like everybody's like, if you're in a relationship, like stay off the internet or something like that.
Yeah, I think that is decent advice, but of course, like it really just comes down to the person and their screen consumption. I feel like if they're overly consuming um their social media content, it can be detrimental depending on their algorithm. And again, that also just it's a personal thing whether or not they're interacting with certain content that may be detrimental to their relationship. And especially with people who may have underlying like mental health conditions, if they're consuming these things, it could be taken in any way possible. And a lot of the times we can't always address nuances. So some videos are pretty much open to interpretation. And of course, if you have like a anxious or avoidant attachment style and you're consuming this, oh, couple goal this, couple goal that, it can get to you and you start to feel like there's these imaginary expectations suddenly set and that there's like a timeline and that there's like impending doom, like your relationship is gonna fail if you don't do this. Like, and I feel like it to an extent can harm a relationship if the person allows it to.
That makes sense. And also, kind of going into our last question, I don't know, I just been noticing that, like, it's hard to get in a relationship because, like, it feels like there's, like, what's that word? Fear mongering? I think that's what it's called.
Fear
Yeah.
mongering.
Like there's this also another trend where it's like the thought of having a boyfriend trend, and it's like women showing like texts they've received from men that aren't really great. I'm trying to remember one off my head. Like I remember seeing one text where one was like a comment where someone was saying like, like imagine receiving a text where somebody said like, oh, like good morning beautiful or something like that. And then it was like other texts shown where it's like men being like very mean, like also desperate at the same time, but also cringy too. So it's like, of course, I guess the thought of having a boyfriend is like can be seen very difficult. I'm not sure to describe the trend, but it's like, what do you think of that?
I think there is truth to like being out in the dating scene and trying to find someone who is genuinely dating to have a long, healthy, solid relationship because hookup culture will always be a thing, I think. And with that being so common and widespread now, with like social media allowing us to connect to more people than ever, we have like multiple dating apps and websites. I mean, hookup culture is just honestly on an exponential rise. Like it's skyrocketing, and so it can be really scary to try and get out there and try and like find someone who is genuine and decent. And it's so hard because of course you'll see like, oh, that's bare minimum. That's like like that's like low bar. And when we see that kind of stuff, it also kind of adds to that fear where it's like, dang, even the most decent guys really aren't doing anything that great. And I feel like it really depends though, because I see those comments on things that are definitely not just bare minimum. But I feel like kind of keeping people aware of human decency versus going above and beyond are like completely different things, and we need to stop praising people for doing the bare minimum, yes, but we also need to have a better, like, definitive line between like genuine kind gestures versus like that's a bare minimum. And when it comes to like this fear of dating, it really, again, trauma has a way. Like it has a will and a way. And also just in general with red pill content, of course, with porn addictions and hookup culture, like the big three being rampant right now, I really cannot blame anyone who's not trying to date. I don't blame anyone who's scared of trying to find a man. Like that trend is kind of real. I mean, these are like real texts. People are genuinely sending these to actual people, like with feelings and thoughts. Like, and it's crazy because then they go on, and I guarantee you, like, they go on to talk about how like, oh my god, like like F women, you know, like they're just all hoes and they're over here like thirsting for a crack in the sidewalk. And I just think like the big three, like it's the big three and it's a plague. And I really can't like blame women for being so cautious now. I will say, like, of course, not every man is like that, but not every snake bites you. But you're still probably going to walk the other way if you come across one. That's like my favorite like analogy for the fear of men. Like, of course, it's not all men, but it's enough.
I agree. Um, yeah, because it's like I try to, steer away from social media, like, because again, like I said, like I do have interest in being in a relationship, but it's just like I feel like I'd rather receive advice from people who are actually in relationships, like who are around me, like my peers, of course, than like I don't know somebody online. I don't know if that's a good method.
I feel like it is, but also I feel like opening your perspective of relationships by hearing other people's experiences, like especially when it's like healthy relationship stories from people who are well like 30, 40 years into the relationship and have been together for like multiple decades. I feel like advice from them is probably the most valuable. I mean, long-term relationships, it's teamwork, and I feel like a lot of the times it's easy for people to believe like, oh, it's me versus you, like I'm fighting you on this issue instead of we're fighting this issue together. And I feel like not taking social media advice is, I think, a good concept to base off of, but also I really like this saying, take everything with a grain of salt, where yes, you could definitely keep something in mind, but don't take it so literal and live your life by it like it's law. Like, because we see so many people like developing anxious attachment styles because they're consuming too much relationship content where they feel like, oh my god, I'm underachieving. Oh my god, they're gonna leave me. They hate me because I cannot give them a yacht and a like a mansion right now at the age of 16. Like, you guys are kids. It's okay. Like, and it's sad though because then we also see the girls suffering from this fear of missing out because they're seeing like grown people with grown people salaries doing grown things with their money. Baby, your 16-year-old boyfriend is not going to be able to buy you a Cartier ring. I'm sorry. Like, and I just feel like take everything with a grain of salt. Like, yes, goals, but you need to know like when those goals are appropriate for you, when those goals are actually achievable, because we kind of pressure ourselves to achieve things immediately because we see something like, oh, these are goals, like this or nothing. Like,
And I guess is there any advice for you have for I guess any young woman again like who wants to get into a relationship or is fearing being in a relationship?
I feel like find someone who values emotional intelligence as much as you do. I feel like emotional intelligence is highly underappreciated. And a lot of the relationship issues and stories that I've seen, they stem from the men lacking emotional intelligence. And so prioritizing that in your partner would probably be like step one. If they got money, whatever. I really can't stress it enough to you. Like in this economy, $50 will have you feeling broke. $50 an
Yeah.
hour will have you feeling broke. Yeah, right now, money is just kind of in the air right now. Like, yeah. Don't worry too much about that. As long as you have someone who is emotionally intelligent and also ambitious and serious
Yes.
about their future, you got it.
Oh, I guess one last thing.
Mhm.
Oh, what do you think about when it comes to the conversation of dating somebody on your level?
I feel like dating someone on your wavelength is kind of like um around the same category of that phrase. And I feel like it is pretty important to do that. Like I feel like a lot of times we see or what I've seen is like men criticizing women for not like covering up and stuff. And I kind of just can't help but wonder why they don't seek out women who do not expose themselves in the first place, or like girls, or like just another thing I've seen is religious people getting into relationships with non-religious people. And I just feel like we need to start dating people who have the same mindset, values, and ambitions. Otherwise, those three, I feel like, are such big aspects in our lives that it will cause a huge rift between you and your partner. If you are not aligned, you I don't know, like it really depends on the person, but most of the time it's not really going to work out because you can't have someone change who they are without them forever like resenting you somewhat, and also like feeling suppressed and anxious because they can't be themselves. And I feel like that's just not really beneficial for either person. Like just suffering the whole entire time doesn't seem ideal. I feel like being able to be free, being yourself without the fear of criticism from the person who's supposed to accept you and love you as you are isn't really good for the psyche. And I feel like, yes, date people who are on your level, date people with the same mindset. Y'all gotta be on the same wavelength. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that was it. These are good
Oh
questions.
my God.
Like,
Thank
I have
you.
notes full of like a bunch of thoughts I had about them.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
Oh my God, no. I'm so glad. I was like, again, like I have so many questions when it comes to the like shit that's coming out on social media lately, and it's just like I need to hear somebody else's perspective because it's just like it's some things I don't understand and there's some things like I'm still trying to process. I don't know, it's just it feels like being a woman right now, especially with how social media is, it's like just very damaging. So it's just like
You can't
again,
do anything right.
right? It's like
You
what
can't exist neutrally in a world where men feel comfortable making comments about you. You can exist in whatever state you want, but it feels just illegal being a woman. You can't be too pretty. You can't be too ugly. You can't be too revealing, but you can't be too covered. You can't be too successful, but you can't be too poor.
too much
It's
shit.
just it's too many rules for us, and none of them were set by us. We have no control over these rules, and it's sucky that we cannot exist mutually like men are able to. There is always an opinion on how we live our lives, and it's annoying.
I just don't get it. Yeah, that's why I'm just like again. It's like, what type of content do I rely on as a woman? Like, what should I start listening to? Or it's just like, I don't know. It's just like at the end of the day, like I've been told, just try to live freely, like do what you want to do. But it's just like again, like again, you just can't really do anything without being criticized.
I know. And it also sucks because, to an extent, yes, you have to ignore what people think, but also know because what people think in a misogynistic society can put us women in danger. And it has killed us many times. Hundreds of women, thousands of women dead because of what another man thought.
Crazy.
Insane. I feel like, if anything, I like to enjoy like women's history, like if there's any content about women's history or any like actual psychology based content, so good. If you're able to kind of read your environment a little bit better, it feels less confusing for you and it feels less threatening when you understand things around you just a little bit better. Sociology, too. Just the inner workings of how we communicate as a society and how we work as a group. It helps a lot to kind of break down certain dynamics that happen, especially with social media being such a big contributor to now how we interact with each other in real life. It's it's kind of like an important thing now for a woman is to be conscious about psychology, sociology, and our own history.
And like I feel like that also gets us by again. Like I'm also very interested in like psychology and sociology a lot. So it's like examining these things and like doing a lot of analysis on stuff and just like how society has like or how really how women are in society, especially like say from back then or even now. It's just like I wanted to bring this up like because like I saw a TikTok. It was about like 80s nostalgia, and like somebody in the comments was like oh like I would love to be in the 80s relationship, and like at first I couldn't really understand like what that meant, and like somebody in the comments was like oh so like you want to be in a relationship where like spouses like would literally like rape their wives and like get away with it, like again like domestic violence was like more prevalent and like you could get away with it. So it's just like I don't know, like maybe we're missing something or it just could be something else.
I think people are forgetting that aesthetic and reality are different things. You can enjoy the aesthetic of a certain decade, but to ignore the real experiences, especially with women and also people of color around that time as well, to kind of stray away from acknowledging the reality of those times is kind of tone deaf, just a little bit. Like you can be like, oh my God, the aesthetic back then was cool, but to be like, oh, I wish I had an 80s relationship, it just sounds very
Yeah.
tone deaf.
Yeah, it's just like I really didn't understand. I was just like an 80s relationship. I don't know. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, like men were legally allowed to, what was it, like own the woman's like assets. Like we didn't have bank accounts for our own, like it was illegal for us to open our own bank accounts, or I'm not sure if it was legal back then or
yeah.
if it had just been legal,
I
but
think it had just
we
been
got,
legal.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we got our rights not that long ago. Like, and I feel like people like forget that a lot because a lot of the times it seems like men would like to replace women because they refuse to acknowledge us as victims, but in the same breath like perpetrate us to harassment or like just violence or just violent like language. And it's just very strange because they dismiss our pain and suffering and then expect us to be responsible for theirs. And it's almost like they're trying to reverse the roles once they realize that we were able to benefit from it as well. And it just seems so strange to me that if we were to have reversed the roles like a long time ago, we would have had equality within the first 10 years. We wouldn't have had decades of oppression. We like if men had experienced the traumas that women have gone through throughout history, I guarantee you we would not be going through such a hard time with simple concepts such as equality and feminism not being, oh, men are below us, but feminism being we want equality. Like it's like hard for me to wrap around the idea of someone struggling with something so simple, but like, to each their own. I just feel like it's cognitive dissonance that is also kind of going rampant right now. So it's really hard to actually have statistics and facts and evidence to someone who doesn't really care.
And it kind of reminds me a little bit, of course, like, the whole like young ho trend going on. Like,
That shit is so funny.
yeah, like I saw also this TikTok where a woman had said like the young ho trend is actually like I guess kind of political because it's representing again young women like just being free and just having fun, just
Yes.
doing what they want.
Yes,
Yeah.
doing what
And
you want.
exactly. And I'm not sure if there's been people against it, probably some people, but it's just like again, like it's just a trend where it's just like although it seems very fun, like it does really have a meaning. Like again, like this summer, go have fun, do what you want, or like not even summer, just like in general. That's what I was saying
And
again,
also
like.
reclaiming the word hoe. And another
Mhm.
thing that I think is so interesting is that there's so many derogatory words for women, but
Crack.
none for
Sorry,
men.
just wanted to say that that's such an aggressive term for like saying you had sex with somebody, cracking someone. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Yes, like it's just like violent language when it comes to women, and also just the way that like our bodies are just inherently viewed, like, yeah, they're inherently viewed as sexual. And I think it's so strange because there's no like derogatory word for men, but there are countless for women. And I feel like us being able to be like, hey, we a young hoe, like that in a way is also just reclaiming this word that we see men use to degrade women for having any type of sexual life, when men are praised constantly for having a overly active sexual life. It is so strange to see men like still with this idea that when women have sex it's wrong, but when men have sex it's different. How is it different? You're communal peeping. I don't know what to say.
Exactly. So it's just like the whole like slut shaming thing, and it's just like no, like let us be young hoes, like.
Exactly. Like, who cares? Honestly, like, everyone's a hoe, actually. Everyone. Your mom's a hoe, your dad's a hoe, your auntie's a hoe, your uncle's a hoe. Everybody's a hoe, really. Like, you know that one girl who is saying, like, oh, everybody's a slut? Bring her back. We need
Yes.
her.
Oh my
We
God.
need her. We need
Yes.
to shine a spotlight in the sky. She is our Batman. Like, I don't know. Where is she? Queen.
Queen. But yeah, no, but thank you again for joining me on this conversation. No, this was very fun. Yeah.
Yes, this is so fun. I'm so glad I agreed. We have
Yes.
the best like questions.
Oh my God, thank you. And no, your responses were also really great too.
Alrighty, girl. Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a good night,
It's
right?
7.
Seven?
We'll be
Okay.
alright.
All right. Bye.